How's it going, fellow Young Cavs? Zach here.
And I'm Tyler.
And today we are doing another MCU review. Now, I'm super stoked. I heard Tyler's not that stoked, which was really surprising.
That was last week.
But we are talking about WandaVision. Now, for those of you who don't know, quick rundown, MCU Review is our Friday night show where we talk about MCU content and review it. And that can be anything from Iron Man all the way to Endgame to the TV shows like WandaVision or Falcon and the Winter Soldier. However, whenever there is new MCU content, that is what we review. So, we are going to be on the WandaVision train like we have been for the last 4 weeks. It's week number 5, and we got a few more, including maybe a bonus week to go. Super excited about that. Tyler, you want to get us started?
Yeah, so a little bit of run. Again, we've said this in previous reviews, but it's really hard. I'm going to say this up front. It's really hard to talk about this show without spoiling it. So, spoiler warning up front, I think. I don't really know how we can really talk it when we're 5 episodes in. I don't know at this point if we can do a non-spoiler section.
At this point, I think all we can do is a quick rating on a couple. So I think what we'll have prepared for next week and the other episodes after this is just kind of a quick rating portion in the beginning where on a scale of either 1 to 10 or 1 to 5, we'll have like 4 different categories from the script to the plot. Honestly, there's no point doing the acting because, everyone's going to be at the top of their game always.
Yeah.
But I think we can break it down like that a little bit, The pacing seems big, especially because I feel like pacing is one of the things that we see eye to eye on the least. So I like having that type of stuff included because otherwise we're just two guys with the same opinion all the time. But yeah, so, all right, anything that you want? So plot, pacing, script, anything else that you want to add?
No, and then the rating, yeah.
Okay, cool.
That's good.
And then I guess we'll just talk about the period that it's set in, like how was that period? Did it feel like an 80s sitcom?
Oh, yeah,
Did it feel like that? I feel like that's
a good thing to do.
All right, cool. Well, you want to go first on the plot?
For sure. So it opens up with so they've had children. What is that? I don't know. It's difficult. Opens up.
Nah, that's in the previews.
We got some. It's in
there.
the previews. So we got some babies, and Wanda is set in the 80s, and so 80s sitcom aesthetic, and so Wanda and Vision can't get their babies to be quiet. Who shows up at the door? Agnes, Agatha, whatever you want to call her. She shows up and is able to somehow, through some sort of something, quiets the children.
Quick question.
And then something else happens.
Quick question. So what's going on here with the... So before we dive into the spoilers, I guess the best thing to do is just talk about
I don't know how to...
these ratings. Do you want to rate the plot in the spoiler-free zone? Sure thing. Here's the full breakdown of the episode, guys.
Oh, I didn't know we were like... Oh, okay.
Oh,
I got it.
Oh, you were thinking I was saying next week for sure. Like that's when we start. All right. Well, we've already broken into the spoiler realm. So
I said spoiler free at the top, or spoiler warning at the top.
You did.
So you know what? This is how it goes.
That was great.
Babies need to be quiet. Need to quiet down, and then Agnes comes in and does her little thing, quiets the children. Something happens to them. They grow up. They rapidly grow in this show, and so we see that. And then I think the dog comes in, right? That's when the dog comes in after that.
Yes. After that, the dog comes in. Let me think. Oh, important thing. This is before that though. Vision starts questioning what's going on before the kids even grew. Them growing is like what distracted him. So what ends up happening, Agnes is in there and she says something about how she wants to hold the kids and Vision, and she can calm them down, and Vision's like, no.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
And then everyone kind of stops and it's kind of awkward and she's looking kind of like, what do I do? And then she looks to Wanda and she's like, I'm supposed to hold the kids, right? Do you want me to take that from the top? Do you want to do it again? Like their actors and the lines just got messed up. And Vision's like, what in the world is happening, Wanda? Like, that one is the only thing that it add to
that was huge.
And then when they grew, it distracted him momentarily from it.
And then so the kids get a dog, or they're hiding a dog from Wanda. And they reveal the dog, and then they want to keep the dog. And Vision is like, well, not until you're 10. And then Agnes, comes in again. They grow, and then jump to Vision is at work, and that's where it kind of. And there's also a bunch of other stuff going on at Sword too that we're.
Another important thing to note is when they say not until you're 10, the kids look at each other, excited, and then they grow, like almost like it was their choice.
Is it though? We'll see.
It might be. Which I want to reference that because when Wanda was pregnant and there was the stork walking around, she couldn't control the stork.
Yeah, there's some things in this universe she can't control. Obviously.
And then when the babies are crying, she's like, I know parenting, we're not supposed to take shortcuts, but... And then nothing happens and they're still crying. So she is not able to use her powers on them, or at least to an extent. You know, I mean, I'm sure if you make an energy ball and throw it at them, I'm sure they're going to be like, ugh! But like she's not able to like manipulate them with her powers. Where everything else in this universe, she's kind of, or not universe anymore. Everything else in this pocket within the hex is what they're calling it now.
The hex,
which is cool because that's what her powers are called in the comics, is hexes.
Yep.
But this is because it's a hexagonal shape. So whatever you got to do to get the comic stuff in there, I'm okay with it.
It works.
But yeah, so it's seeming like most things within the hex she can control, but then there's just a couple things that she can't, and it looks like the kids are one of them. Which actually even later, which we'll get to why in a second, but the kids look like they want to grow again because Wanda makes a comment about understanding something when you're older. And then she stops and she's like, no, don't grow, don't age up. And she like stops them from doing it. So it's not even like a regular, like, it's so interesting. There's so many reasons, like,
so many things
like,
that happen.
like they know they have powers to some degree, apparently.
But they're not displaying their full
they're only aging.
Yeah.
So very interesting.
It's interesting. Vision goes to work though, and gets this message on the computer from Sword. Sword is trying to communicate with Vision through the barrier. And so they type him a message on the computer, and then that kind of makes him turn to Norm and be like, what's going on? And then he gets the idea to look into Norm's mind, and then Norm basically explains how Wanda is torturing him, and it's torturing his mind. So Wanda's not doing
so
Wanda's
this
not
message,
a good person at this point. Wanda's crossed over to being a bad person.
When this message comes in, they read it out loud, and it's straight up all of these details, like real world, not in the hex details. And it's like stuff about Wanda, this and that, stuff about controlling the people in Westview, and then everyone in the office, oh, what a great prank. And Vision's like, what in the world?
Yeah.
And then they're just like, what, man? It's just a prank. You should write them back. That'd be real funny, man. And that's the moment where Vision's like, okay, this is ultra not right.
Right.
But yeah, I thought it's so interesting. I'll let you continue before I speculate on things.
Yeah, and so some stuff happens with Sword. They're trying to figure out more about what she's doing. They look at more Monica Rambeau, and they try to figure out like mentally, like they do a brain scan, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
And try to figure out what happened, but that gets scrambled, and then they make a huge revelation with the clothing from the world. Monica Rambeau went in with a bulletproof vest, and then Wanda has been able to manipulate reality so much so that the 70s clothing that she was wearing when she got kicked out is bulletproof.
So, I didn't mention this to you earlier. With the clothing thing, I was way off base with what I thought was happening there. So, Monica is basically, they're trying to figure out like what's going on. Monica's like, everything in that world is real, and they're like, no, it can't be. She's like changing decades and whatnot.
Right.
And she's like, no, it's all real. Vision's real. Like all the people in there are real. Mm-hmm. And then that's when she's like, here, wait a second. And she goes and she does some sort of scan on her clothes. Really well. First they see her clothes, and everyone's, and then Darcy and Jimmy are like, what? And then they're like, that's super real. Are we under her control? And then she does like, she touches it with some device, which apparently is just like a needle that you can poke things with, and then it tells you what they're made out of, which is a really convenient thing to have. But
it's Sword, you don't question it.
And then she's like, I knew it, or something like that, and pulls out her gun and shoots the clothes. So what I thought was happening, because what is Monica from?
Captain Marvel, yeah.
I thought the clothes were Skrulls.
What?
Like, for a second.
Okay,
like,
you heard it here first, guys.
The
clothes are Skrulls.
Just a split second. When she, like, jabbed it and we see, like, some stuff happening on the screen, I thought that was, like, a reaction, like a nerve reaction at first. And I was like, oh, like, is it living? Like, is it part of her consciousness? And then she pulls out the gun, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're Skrull!
Oh.
And then she shoots it, and then the bullets are on the floor, and I'm like, oh no, there's no blood. These aren't Skrulls. And then she's like, Kevlar, and I'm like, oh yeah, that makes way more sense.
I mean, my mind, I was wondering what was going on, but my mind did not go there with the clothes. But
it's just, this show has been so weird that like it made me straight up have a thought while watching it that like, I bet those clothes are two Skrulls. Like,
I mean, hey,
that's how wild this show is.
Anything is possible. Anything is possible. But so yeah, and then they send in this drone, right? Because we're probably gonna talk about probably the best scene in the show. There's a few good, like, I like the thing at the very end, with Wanda and Vision. But so Tyler Hayward decides to send in a drone from the decade that can disguise itself and won't get immediately noticed or changed, because they realize that it's the stuff that comes into the decade that isn't part of the decade or isn't supposed to be there, she changes it somehow.
So they're thinking, what if it already belongs and doesn't need to be changed? That was Monica's idea, right?
I think so.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Cool.
So they bring in the drone, they try to communicate with Wanda, but that doesn't go very well, because Tyler, which I don't like that I share a name with this fellow, but
just call him Hayward if you want.
Hayward, very much so, tries to eliminate her. Apparently there's a missile that's attached to this drone, which, again, I don't know. This guy must be super dumb. I don't understand how he thought a missile was going to stop Wanda. Like, did you not do, like, you're the head of SWORD. Like, do you not do research on who this is? Like, so that kind of threw me off. Obviously, dude's not a good, dude's a suspicious character, for sure.
Dude, so, okay. I'm going to rewind. So, at the 10-minute and 50-second mark of the episode, that's when SWORD this is before all of this. This is when this is on the SWORD side, where they're like talking about like, what should we do? Figure it out. Mm-hmm. And he's basically just keeps bumping. They're like, Wanda's evil. Wanda's a villain. He's like Tyler here. That's why they share a name. And he's like, Wanda's on the dark side. And then Jimmy and Darcy and Monica are like, no, she's not. Like, and Monica even says, she protected me. Like, I went flying out of there, like, hundreds of meters, and I didn't get hurt. Like, Wanda was protecting me in that. Like, she's grieving, and, like, she's, like, doing this on, like, a conscious level. Like, it's fluctuate. Like, they don't think she's bad. And
but
the
Monica
Tylers...
Rambeau isn't human. I mean, she's got powers, too. So that's a whole nother thing, too. It's like...
Does she yet?
I don't know, but maybe that's why she didn't get hurt.
That would be
so maybe Wanda wasn't trying to
so many layers. But essentially Tyler Hayward shows all this stuff and kind of takes stuff out of context, like Sokovia, not Sokovia, sorry,
Lagos.
Oh no, it is Lagos,
yeah.
Where she blows up part of a skyscraper, when in reality Crossbones was self-destructing. He was kamikazing, and she flung him in the air away from the general populace on the ground.
Right.
But there were still people above to get hurt. So he's framing her to be this awful chick while they're trying to defend her. And then, so Jimmy Woo says, I thought my notes were up, and they weren't. So this is what. So at the 10:50 mark, after Hayward shuts Jimmy Woo down, Jimmy Woo says, I try not to speak ill of people. And then Darcy interrupts and says, then allow me. Hayward's, and then it cuts because she was going to say a word that, if it was in SpongeBob, we'd be hearing dolphin noises. Let's just put it that way.
Exactly.
But when it cuts, Hayward is finishing his sentence. So the sentence flows without any pause, like talking about Hayward, is Hayward's a terrorist. So that, as far as I'm concerned, was the confirmation that he's part of Hydra. Oh, wait. Wanda does not like Hydra.
No.
Because they're the ones who did all this to her, and essentially the reason her brother's dead. Because if they didn't do this to them, then, you know, she would have never been in a position to lose Vision. She would have never been in a position to lose her brother. Mm-hmm. We know she's thinking about Hydra because we've seen them in the commercials on the broadcast.
Lagos was the brand in the commercial for this episode.
So at this point, like I said, if you watch that scene, it plays out, you know, I only speak ill of people, then allow me. Hayward's a terrorist. He's Hydra. He's 100% Hydra. They told us right there.
Or, you know, Skrull Hydra 2.
Skrull Hydra 2. But yeah, so it might not just be some dumb military guy being like, Scarlet Witch is a threat.
No, I haven't trusted. Ever since the dude came on the scene, I didn't trust him.
Yeah.
No, we need to watch out for this guy.
So there might be some personal thing here. Like, she is powerful. She has mind powers. As Skrull, we have mind powers. And, like, disguise ourselves as other people.
Right.
She'll be able to stop the secret invasion. Like, she is literally the one person who can stop us.
Very true.
Like, are you a Skrull or a human? Well, I don't know. All my memories are accurate. Well, I know because I can read your mind. Boom! Like,
should we give a little context on, like, what the secret invasion and Skrull?
Yeah, I'm down. Let's do it.
A little bit, yeah. So basically, Skrulls can shapeshift into other people, and they can disguise themselves.
They're the green aliens if you saw Captain Marvel.
Right. And apparently there are good ones and bad ones. Just like any...
Yeah, so far we've only seen good ones as far as we know with Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Which, that was a surprise for me, but we're not talking about Captain Marvel right now. But yeah, so I'm excited to see some bad Skrulls too.
So there are some bad Skrulls, and the secret invasion is basically... on its simplest level, is the Skrull invasion, and Wanda is the only one, like Zach said, that could potentially stop them. So that makes sense why the Skrulls would not like Wanda.
And
anything else to add there?
Yeah, I was thinking too. You know, this show, I don't trust anything with this show.
No.
Like, when they say stuff, I'm just like, okay, like, let's take it a step further. So as soon as Monica says at the end of episode 3, it's Wanda. Wanda's in control. I'm like, okay, cool. We're only halfway through the season. Wanda's not in control. Like, if you're telling us that now, that means we're going to find out someone else is in control.
Yep.
Which, again, we've been talking about how there's been things that she hasn't been able to affect for one reason or another. So, like, that's kind of like where I am with this show. When they say something, I'm like, okay.
Definitely.
What's happening here?
I definitely want to, like, when this show's all done, I definitely want to do a couple of videos where we just kind of take a deep dive and kind of dissect, like, the setup and payoff type thing, and kind of look at what they set up and how they paid it off. I think it'd be kind of a fun video.
That would be really cool.
So yeah, I think we'll do that.
But so what I'm thinking is what was it saying? So everything is, oh yeah, so I don't trust anything. So homeboy Hayward strolls up on the scene when they're giving him a hard time, being like, Wanda's not a villain, and he's like, all right, I wasn't gonna show you this, but since you're all being difficult, let's break it out. This was filmed last Friday, and it's Wanda getting Vision's body from Sword headquarters.
Yep. This is where this is where you go in the episode. You're like, oh no.
But because this show makes me think of Spider-Man so much, because we know it's tying into Doctor Strange.
That's pretty good.
And we know Spider-Man is also tying into Doctor Strange. So is it tying into WandaVision too? You know, there's multiverse stuff going on everywhere, it seems like. So because of that, I constantly start thinking about Spider-Man with this show. And Spider-Man Far From Home ends with some dude, Mysterio, being like, well, not Mysterio, he didn't make the video, his underling did, who left with the stuff, having this video that never even happened, of all this chaos and the drone stuff happening, and then Mysterio being like, Peter Parker is Spider-Man, blah blah, and then like Peter Parker kills him like right there in the video, you know, like the video like cuts, but like that's what's. So as soon as I see some other dude stroll up and be like, yeah, you can trust me because of this, I'm just like, can we though? Especially if you're a Skrull Hydra.
Yep.
Like,
so that's the
is
thing
this
too.
Did Wanda really come do that, or did someone just transform to look like her?
Or is that a Skrull?
And do it? Or is it just a edited video ever since Mysterio that's now a thing? You can 100% have completely accurate, unreal videos that aren't even like edited as in cut together. It's just straight up like, no, like here's Peter Parker killing this guy.
Or even in the Mysterio video, are those guys Skrulls?
Yeah, man. Like it's a deep...
Will it go? Yeah, are we gonna go that far back when we get there? And it's like, oh yeah, that was a Skrull, that was a Skrull, Mysterio was a Skrull. This, you know. So, get ready, get ready for everything you knew to just be gone. But yeah, no, that was an intense scene. And then obviously the drone comes in. She doesn't like the fact that drone almost took her out. And
also it's just breaking her whole thing.
Yeah. And so they decide to meet her at the border, or they gather at the debater. I almost said debater.
The baiter. Down by the baiter.
They gather at the border.
Wanda Maximoff, she's making her way down by the baiter with the red pie. She goes and open it up. She said, "I hear now." And then they'll turn her gun and say, "Oh no, don't shoot!" And then go back in. Yeah.
So woo! She comes out and meets them.
That's what I just said, bro.
Can we just clip that part out?
Yeah, I was about
to.
Review. I literally was like,
I think we should just do that. That'd be funny. You put that on your TikTok.
Yeah.
Sorry. So she comes out to meet everyone, and basically tells everyone to back off, or she's gonna do some damage.
And she has her accent.
She's got her accent, which makes sense, because if you're under this much stress and, you know, mental anguish, that, you know, you'd almost think, like, was the accent kind of a front to fit in with people?
So what the Russo said, because people love to nitpick, like, the smallest things.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Olsen's accent got less and less every movie she's in, until she's just talking like a regular American person.
Right, which would make sense.
Yeah, and people are like, oh, look at the actor slowly losing their accent and just like forgetting. Like that was like the whole like when you do it for a while, it just kind of slips until everyone's just used to your normal voice. And everyone's like, oh, Marvel's so sloppy. This is why it's not real cinema. So the Russos and people are like, well, yeah, this is just a retcon. But whatever. The Russos are like, I was reading comments about this like the second week of WandaVision. And I don't normally read threads of people like debating. I say that loosely, it's the internet. But I don't normally read threads of people going back and forth. But people were talking about that, and the Russos, they straight up said that Black Widow, who is an expert spy and can speak all these different languages and speak them where she sounds like a native of whatever country, helped teach her how to talk like an American.
Right.
So, you know, that she could fit in better, and also too that people, you know, she was a villain before with Ultron. And it was one of those things where it's like, ooh, like the scary Sokovian lady, okay, let's get this, you know, accent training and help you like fit in with the Avengers.
Yeah.
And it was wild. I was watching, like I said, I was reading this thread, and someone was like, if that was true, then they would have then they at least could have showed us that in the movie. And someone's like, could you? And then another person chirps in, and they're like, could you imagine how boring of a scene that would be? Or especially because it'd be out of nowhere, because it wouldn't have to do with the plot of the movie, where it's
and
like, all right, Wanda, time to work on your accent training.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to go on that rabbit trail. It just cracked me up when I saw that.
No, it's silly. People nitpick over the goofiest stuff. But she comes out, and it was intense. I mean, she's it was because and this is what's so great about the show is you're constantly like, how in control is she? You're constantly questioning that, and then you see a scene like this where she's like, stay out of like I've built
my home.
Yeah, she's like, stay out of my home.
And they straight up said too in the beginning of this episode that she could have taken out Thanos by herself.
Yes.
Like, yeah, they said that. So, and I thought that was cool. There was a cool nod to Captain Marvel there too. But yeah, man. So if she's coming out and she's ticked off at you, like,
and then she points all the guns at Hayward.
Yeah, man.
Which was my favorite. One of my favorite moments of the show because I was like, yeah, we don't like this guy.
That was so awesome. And she just throws the drone at him too, which to me, so I might be reading into this. So for those of you who don't know, originally in the comics, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver were children of Magneto. Mm-hmm. So the comics changed that. Legitimately, the only reason, like, the comics might have their own reason to change it, because that's not what really happened. The only reason they changed it is because at the time, Fox was not owned by Disney, and Fox owned the right to the X-Men stuff. Joss Whedon, I think at the premiere of Iron Man 3, announced that he was going to make a Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch movie. Everyone forgets about this. But he's like, yeah, phase 2, we're having a Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch movie. So then, immediately after that, when X-Men Days of Future Past was more than halfway, was already, like, mostly done filming, which means all the casting is done. The very next day, they announced that they casted, what's his name that plays Quicksilver?
Aaron Taylor Johnson?
Yes.
Yeah.
That they casted a Quicksilver for their Days of Future Past movie. And then
Evan Peters was Days of Future Past. Sorry.
Okay.
I thought you were talking about Joss Whedon. Sorry, my bad.
No, you're fine. But they filed like an injunction basically against Marvel, and were like, you cannot. I don't know if they actually filed it, but they were like, you can't make a Quicksilver Scarlet Witch movie because we used him first.
I remember that
because he's a mutant.
I forgot about that, but I remember that.
So Marvel then goes into the comics and basically. They cut off every tie the X-Men have with the greater Marvel comics as much as they can. So, one of the very first things they do, Magneto is no longer the father of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. They're not mutants. So that is now their way of saying, these aren't part of the X-Men, these are Avengers.
Right.
They don't have any tie to Magneto.
And now I think we're reversing that.
Yeah, I do, and I'm so excited about that. But one of the things that I thought was so cool was when she came out and she threw that drone it looked like the X-Jet to me. I don't know if that's just me.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just me tying it in.
No. So that's weird that you say that, because I didn't like think that in my head, but I was like, there was something about that like.
I was like, this
like
is
sparked my mind, but I was like, I don't know why that did that, but you're totally right.
It looked just like the X-Jet to me, and I was just like, I'm like, did it change? We haven't seen like what it actually looks like. I'm like, did it change at all? Like, but yeah, so that's just cool. But yeah, that whole scene, man, that whole scene was bananas.
It's great.
There was so much tension, and she showed her power, because yeah, she, you know, in Age of Ultron, she would go behind someone and like put her hands on their head or around their head to manipulate them, which is why Hawkeye knew she was coming and then stuns her with his arrow. And there was none of that this time. Hayward tried to talk up a big game, and she just, in all of these dudes' eyes, start glowing red, and they all turn their guns off of her onto Hayward. And yeah, man, that was...
She's villain.
I straight up, I was so curious. I was like, are they about to shoot this dude? And then he changes. I guess since the clothes didn't change, I needed someone to change. I'm like, are they going to shoot this dude? And then all of a sudden he's going to change into a Skrull, like, when he's dead or something like that? Like, are we going to get the reveal this quick? And then the back half is, like, a battle against the Skrull, who are inside Westview? Like, it was bananas, man, this scene.
So many possibilities that this thing could go. And then we go back to the house, and Vision comes home.
Yeah, because the kids point out before the drone, the kids pointed out that Vision, they're like, why is he at work? It's a Saturday. And Wanda was basically like, I tricked him. She didn't say it that way to the kids, but it was more like, sometimes we need a distraction. Like, she wanted to distract him.
And then they lose their dog, so they start looking for the dog, and then they run into Agnes, who reveals that the dog has passed away. And then the boys get all upset, and then that's when Wanda tries to tell them that they can't bring people back from the dead. It's just not natural. There's some rules to life. But they tell her, but you can do it, Mom. Like, you can do it, Mommy. Like, you can bring people back from the, you know. And then they ask her to do it, and then that's when she kind of breaks down and
like
begs them not to grow older.
That moment,
to deal with their problems.
That moment is the moment that tells us too. So what's going on with Vision? Because she didn't want, she didn't want him to leave. So like, she apparently brought Vision back from the dead, or so we thought. Like, how much of this world is her making?
Exactly.
Because,
okay, so the dog dying, I think, was huge. Obviously, it's... The dog and Vision are very,
and
are very much tied together. But did Agnes kill the dog?
That's what I was wondering, too.
Because that doesn't seem, that seems like that's not something that Wanda controlled. If Wanda wanted that dog to be alive, that dog would be alive.
Yes, I agree.
But because of Agnes's magic, she couldn't bring the dog back. Because I feel like if she wanted to bring the dog back, she could have. And she would have if she could. But because of Agnes's magic, she can't? I don't know.
How does that scene end? How does she get back into the house? Is Vision just home? Like, does he get home at that moment?
Yeah, she's home, and then he comes in the door. He just walks in the door. Because the implication, I think, is that he buried the dog out in the yard, and then he came inside.
Oh, okay.
I thought he was like, how are the boys? And she's like...
Okay, cool. I was trying to put that back together in my head really quick. Okay, because for some reason I was thinking, like, maybe she was going to try to bring the dog back, but then it got interrupted. But I was like, no, that doesn't sound right. But yeah, so they must have buried it. But yeah, man, so then, like you said, Vision comes in.
Vision comes in and basically tells her that she's not, she can't control him anymore.
He tells her he knows
He knows.
The jig is up.
Yep.
And they about to fight.
Tensions escalate.
They both float in the air.
And she claims that she doesn't have, or that she was unaware in the beginning of the show what was going on. That she didn't understand everything.
She says, "I don't know how I got here."
Right, because
that's huge.
Vision mentions, he says a line like, "We're not one mind anymore, Wanda," or whatever. So they used to think very similarly. They used to be one mind, but over the course of the show, that is obviously dovetailed.
And he says, "I don't," because she's like, "You've never talked to me like this before." So at that moment too, it's like, okay, is he talking to you different because that's not really Vision, because that's a version you created? You know, like, there's so many questions. But then he says, you know, "I can't remember anything before this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember growing up. I don't remember meeting you. I don't remember marrying you." He doesn't say this stuff, but I forget his actual sentence. So he said he can't remember his life before any of this.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when they start to calm down and they start to talk, and he's still like, "The data says you're lying. Like, I'm not gonna believe you with this stuff."
Mm-hmm.
And then she's like, "I didn't make this place. I don't know how I got here."
Right. Which we don't know what to believe.
And then you've been waiting
and then,
so long.
And then there's a knock on the door. Again, I've said the structure. I feel like we could have got to this moment a little bit earlier in the series, but this is the episode I was waiting for things to get juicy. And get the knock on the door. And who is it? It's Evan Peters, Quicksilver. You know, from the X-Men universe, shows up at the door. And that confirms that the multiverse... I mean, there have been other...
To a degree, I still don't know if it does. I mean, we know the multiverse exists just from Doctor Strange.
Mm-hmm.
But I still don't know how into the multiverse we're going to get with this show.
Well, also, too, I mean, there's so many questions with this show. But Darcy watches this on the goes over to the TV, and when Quicksilver shows up, they cut back to Sword,
which again is her brother.
Sirens are going off when that happens, which I don't know what that means. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's something maybe something else is happening in the real world that you gotta take care of. But she states that that Wanda recasted.
Yeah,
Quicksilver.
Did Wanda recast Pietro?
Exactly. And so, yeah, it's like, is it a wink and that's the thing, is it a wink and the nod to the fan, like us, to be like, oh hey, this is the Quicksilver from the X-Men universe, the Fox universe, but she really did just recast him as this guy, or is it the real guy from the Fox universe?
What's so great is I feel like at the rate the show is moving now, I feel like that question will be mostly answered by the end of the next episode.
Oh, yeah.
Because, so where I'm at, I saw this happen. At first I was like, what? Crossover from the multiverse. And I was like, I still don't think so. Like, I know she can change reality. And I'm just like, maybe this is just some dude.
She also claims that she didn't bring him to the door.
Yes, she does.
She didn't do
That's huge. But, it's one of those things, is this just some dude in Westview that her subconscious, has made her desire for her brother, has just made this guy take on that role, since everyone has to take on the role she gives them?
Mm-hmm.
Or is this the one from the X-Men universe? Is this another Quicksilver not from that X-Men I feel like that's how it's going to happen when we get some sort of multiversal X-Men action happening. I know the X-Men could come into the MCU without a multiverse thing, but I think they are going to be related to the multiverse a bit, just because we're diving more into the multiverse at the same time that they're showing up.
The most likely, yeah.
So I feel like it's gonna be, you're basically gonna have the convenience of, instead of just being like straight up, this is the X-Men from the X-Men 2000 movies.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's a parallel universe because there's, infinitely many parallel universes that are almost exactly the same, and those X-Men movies had the sloppiest timeline of any cinematic universe in history.
Exactly.
And they had some of the biggest plot holes, and like not nitpicky ones, like ones where you're like watching it, you're like, wait a second, what's happening? And I feel like
it's never a good sign in a movie.
Yeah. And I feel like what
unless you're watching WandaVision.
Then it's on purpose. And I really feel like when the multiverse with the X-Men stuff happens, they're going to come from a universe that's essentially completely identical to the ones we've seen, minus the plot holes, where like they can explain anything away. Like simply where it's like, oh yeah, we fought Stryker and all these people with Wolverine here, and then it's like, then we did this, and like, that's not how X-Men 3 happened. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's gonna go like
Apocalypse came, and it's like, well, that's not how that movie went down.
Exactly.
Yep.
So
you might be right there.
I'm so excited to see, because like, this is like when these movies were only coming out 1 or 2 a year, and the universe wasn't really set yet. The MCU universe wasn't really set yet.
One every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was...
And it was like, where's this gonna go? Is Thanos gonna... What's he gonna do? Is this gonna happen? I remember at the end of the Avengers, which I think this might have been the direction Joss Whedon was going to take him, but when the Acolyte is talking to Thanos about how they failed to destroy the humans, he's like, we were lied to about the humans. They are too unruly to be ruled. And he's going on his rant, and he says, to face them is to court death. And then Thanos turns and smiles. Thanos in the comments of this video.
In the comments.
Thanos in the comics, his whole goal was to be with Lady Death.
Yeah.
So courting death sounds like a bad thing to anyone else, but then you're like, oh, courting in the romantic sense, like to Thanos, like, yeah, I want to court death. Yeah. Like, and like, I feel like that's where we're at with WandaVision, where it's just like, we're going into a brave, bold new MCU.
Yeah.
And it puts us back at this point. A lot of people predicted how Endgame was going to end. Like, a lot of people were like, Stark's gonna sacrifice himself because of what they said when they were arguing in the first Avengers. You're not the guy to lay your life on the line. And then Cap was going to retire, and
right,
it happened.
And you knew that based on it's so crazy because that based on like contractual things. You knew that their contracts were up, so it's like, yeah, and these things. You're like, okay.
And it's one of those things where it's like the universe was so set, like it made sense because actions have consequences, and Endgame, despite my issues with it, follows the natural reactions for the most part of like 20 movies. So it's like, okay, this makes sense. Like, I can theorize where this is going to go because we have this whole road here. But I feel like with WandaVision, we're back at the beginning of the road.
Yes.
Where it's like time to speculate away.
And I think you bring up a good point. We're in brand new territory that Marvel's always had, by the way. It's just now we're exploring it. And I bring up the question of, there was always the thought of, okay, well, you don't have Chris Evans anymore. There's no Robert Downey Jr. There's no Iron Man. Like, can the MCU be successful without them? Because they're the ones that held up, the MCU to the general public, And I would just say after, this is a huge swing, and I would say after this show, yeah. Like, I think the MCU's,
yeah.
I think the MCU, we as comic book fans, I think, know how deep and how rich these characters are, but like, yeah, no. Like, I want to see more Wanda. Like, give me Wanda as the villain. Like, I want to see that.
Yeah, I do too.
And, you mentioned the Spider-Man thing. this makes me so excited because I think this. I mean, man, having Evan Peters in here, I'm like, yep, okay, give me Toby, give me Andrew. Like it's coming.
Yeah, dude.
You know, it just puts more evidence in that plate. I mean, it's just, and even if we, again, I do think we're gonna get Toby. I do think we're gonna get Andrew. But the fact that like Doc Ock is gonna come back in this way somehow, where it's like again, but it's and Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx said that he's not the blue.
He's not blue Electro.
But it makes sense with what we saw in WandaVision.
Yeah.
It's like, it's X-Men universe Quicksilver adjacent. It's like, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And I think that's everything from what Jamie Foxx said and what Alfred Molina said about, I'm not the Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2, I'm a different Doc Ock. I think that's the same type of thing that's going on in WandaVision.
So, I commented when you were doing your, the rendered image and talking about this show a little bit. And I was leaving a bunch of comments, so this one just seemed like a random me tossing some names into the hat. However, Marvel is very good at, like, throwing us this curveball, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And you were talking about how you think Magneto's going to show up. A ton of people think Ian McKellen's Magneto's going to show up because his connection from the comics being their father and whatnot.
Yeah.
Be like Quicksilver, you know, now we already have Evan Peters Quicksilver in here. But on top of that, you know, just the fact that Paul Bettany said, Paul Bettany plays Vision, he said that he got to play with an actor who he's wanted to be in something with his whole career. Paul Bettany is 49. This actor, if he wants to be with him for his whole career, is most likely older than him. Mm-hmm. And Elizabeth Olsen, Scarlet Witch, said there is a cameo, or not a cameo, there is a guest appearance that like rivals the appearance of Luke Skywalker in Mandalorian, which once again, Ian McKellen's Magneto makes sense. I keep connecting to Spider-Man. I wasn't joking. With some of my comments, I was joking. I could 100% see Meryl Streep as Madam Web. Because Madam Web also is very heavily involved in Spider-Man's arc with Mephisto.
True, there is that connection.
And Madam Web is highly involved whenever the multiverse is concerned for Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. She's involved. She's usually like pulling the strings in some ways, or giving him advice, or looking and seeing like an oracle across all these universes. And she would be someone who is that high status that you could be like, okay, this is like a huge cameo. But then she is also someone who is older than Paul Bettany, that would have been huge his whole career, that he potentially could have wanted to.
That's very true. That's very true.
No one talked about that one. It's most likely Ian McKellen, but in my head I'm just
if Meryl Streep shows up in Madam Web, you heard it here first.
I would lose my mind. And that, you know, ties us to the Spider-Verse, which is happening in Spider-Man 3.
Which they want to do. I mean, because it goes this Spider-Man and then ends in Doctor Strange. So that's kind of the thing. So you're totally right, where you would want to, at the end of this, you would want to set up Spider-Man in some way. Mm-hmm. So there's got to be some sort of like, and yeah, I mean, having Madam Web at the end of this would be like
insane.
A insane thing that would set up the Spider-Man film. Like, it makes sense.
Yeah,
it does.
Dude.
It makes sense. If Spider-Man 3 wasn't happening, I'd be like, eh.
No, same. Yeah, that's the reason I like.
For sure. Like, I think you know, now, who knows?
Like I said, it's most likely Ian McKellen, but I would lose my mind if it's the moment's coming where everyone expects Ian McKellen, and then all of a sudden, like, we just see this chair, and there's Meryl Streep, and there's, like, Spider-Man stuff happening, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe Toby appears, you know? Maybe he's the big cameo also, too, that rivals Luke Skywalker. Like, maybe she brings Toby to them in Westview for whatever reason.
Yeah, who knows?
You know, like, there's just so much that could happen. And did you hear about the secret episode?
No.
That we might get? So I forget who it is. It's not Monica. There's someone who was in this WandaVision show. It might be Dottie, the neighbor.
Oh yeah.
But I just remember it was a actress, and the agency company that represents her posted on their website a thing, and it said in episodes, I'm gonna mess the episode numbers up, but if it was Dottie, we know she was in episode 2 and 3, so it'd be blah 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 featured in WandaVision episodes 2, 3, 8, 9, and 10. But this is only a 9 episode run. So the agency could have messed up. Or there is a secret final episode of this that wraps everything back together. Who knows? But
who knows?
I had to bring that one up because with all of the craziness that's happening, and like that'd be so meta, like how the show, like in the show is changing, and like what's going on. The people who are like part of it are like, what's happening? And then in the real world, it's like, wait, there's another one. What's happening?
There's another one. What's happening? That'd be great. That'd be great.
Oh, speaking of meta, I know you liked the scene when Vision and Scarlet Witch start to argue. We totally skipped this part.
Yes.
So normally, at the end of the show, the credits of WandaVision roll, and then someone's watching it on TV or whatever, then something in the real world happens not in the Hex happens.
Right.
And they're starting to get mad at each other, and Vision is questioning Wanda, and Wanda does not want to address Vision. She doesn't want to face Vision. And she's like, no, and she's like, we're done, and tries to walk away. And the credits start rolling.
Yeah, she wants to be done. The credits start to roll. I fell for it. I was not happy. I was like, really? This is gonna be the end of the episode?
Oh man, what happened, Tyler? Tell us.
And so, Vision basically says, "No, we're not done."
Yes.
And it cuts from the kitchen to the living room, and then he's changed from his human face to his real face. And then they start arguing, and then that's when he's like, I don't know anything about my life.
And while this is happening, the credits are like coming in and out, and like, and they break, and they go away.
And then he lifts up in the air. Or they both lift up in the air, and she's got the magic in there.
I loved that so much.
Oh, it was great. I did want to mention, though, as I was watching it, I realized, like, that scene in particular, in the living room, I thought his makeup looked really bad.
So I think that has to do with the illusion falling apart. The makeup on his face I thought was fine, but his hands were just red.
Yeah.
There was no texture. There was no pattern. Other moments there was texture and pattern. So like his synthetic skin.
Yeah.
So
I was, the whole time I was like,
I feel like that was on purpose because
it's Marvel.
Yeah.
So they,
And also too, when the makeup is like this detailed, like all these like scale, like synthetic stuff.
We've seen them do great Vision makeup, and I was just like, this looks. And I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it could have been the 80s. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just wrote it off as like, oh well, this is how it would have looked in the real 80s sitcom. Anyways, it would have looked kind of cheap.
I thought that had to do with him. So he was in his human form when the argument started, and then he comes in the other room and he's red. But like her control and things is kind of starting to fall apart. So like his face is his regular face, but I felt like his skin was just red, like because it was like there wasn't a moment where he shifted. Like it just happened because the world's kind of fallen apart.
Right. You bring up
so I felt like he was like in between. Like he was in between his human and his Vision side.
That makes sense.
But yeah, because from knowing how detailed they've done his makeup and the fact that this was just red paint, it tells us it's not like, oh, we accidentally did it bad this time.
No, yeah. And again, I mean, this is one thing that you should know is like, this is Disney's, this is the MCU we're talking about here.
How big's the budget on this?
They don't.
Were you saying?
250 million.
And how big was the budget on The Dark Knight? Like 165, 180,
like 180, 180. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is 200. I mean, this is like an Endgame. Well, Endgame was a little bit. Endgame was like 300 something, I think.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is that level. So, and these are the top people in the industry working on this show. So they don't
good.
do that and Star Wars and stuff too. But like, no, they're not making mistakes like that for sure.
As anybody who's watching this, I know we're not live, but this is a premiere. So what's nice? Oh yeah, so what's nice about the premiere format? I do want to say this really quick. It only is going to affect the people that are watching live for the premiere. But I highly recommend you come to the premieres when they're premiering. So basically, when you premiere a video on YouTube, it plays in real time as if you were live. Mm-hmm. So until the first broadcast ends, you can't go back. You can't like rewind or anything like that. Like you're watching it live. And one thing I love about the premiere format is that gives me and Tyler the freedom to, during the broadcast, be in the comments talking to you guys about what we're talking about now. So feel free to comment on this stuff because we are going to be in the chat, like responding to things. Mm-hmm. But so let me know what you think. If you've seen Too Many Cooks from Adult Swim, tell me in the comments. Did I ever show you Too Many Cooks? Have you seen that?
When did that? Maybe a long time ago. I don't know.
Too Many Cooks was this hyper viral troll that Adult Swim did, and they had a block of programming, and I forget exactly what it's called. I'm not going off the most sleep, so my brain's a little like can't reach back that far. But basically, there was a 10-minute gap of programming on Adult Swim. Instead of getting a commercial, they made their own thing, and then they put it as like, they titled it on like the TV guide as like something commercial content or something or whatever. Mm-hmm. So people are expecting to watch some like infomercial or something, and all of a sudden this sitcom starts, like the credits, and it was like a little something, I forget the words. It's like too many cooks, too many cooks, too many cooks, and all the cheesy like, oh me, hi, and all this like stuff's happening as the credits appear on the people, and then you think it's over. Too many cooks, and then it starts over, but it's like different people, and I think there was like 70 people like involved, like with the credits and stuff.
Oh, nice.
But it keeps going and it keeps getting crazier until someone like it breaks, and then like this girl's frozen and like the credits are like on her, and this dude's like killing everybody while they're frozen in the credits.
Oh wow.
And so then she breaks free right before he kills her, and she's running, and the credits are in her name plate on the credit is like in front of her. She's running for her life and like hiding in the closet, and you think she's safe, but then you see the light from the credits like coming out of the closet. Oh. So as soon as it started glitching in this episode, I was like, I'm getting Too Many Cooks vibes right now.
Nice.
And it just was like,
I don't think I've ever seen that. No.
It's so funny because it was just meant to be a comedy thing, but it was straight up a 10-minute parody on sitcoms.
Yep.
And now WandaVision is like, it's not a parody. You know, people keep calling it a parody. It's not a parody of sitcoms. No. Like, it is a sitcom, but it's not. Like, there's a sitcom in the show, I guess is the best way to say it.
Yeah.
But it was just so funny that like this 10-minute thing that from like 2007 that was just meant as like this big troll and this big joke. Like, throughout so many episodes of WandaVision, my brain would go back to Too Many Cooks because it's the only thing that spoofs sitcoms.
Right. So
then having like the credits start like glitching out and like freezing and stuff, I was like, oh, it is Too Many Cooks. We're here. But that was a long tangent, but I was like, I gotta talk about this on the review.
Too Many Cooks.
Because this might be the only MCU reviews the only WandaVision review on YouTube that is bringing you the hard-hitting stuff of the connections between Too Many Cooks and WandaVision. Multiverse, watch out. They're coming for you.
Yeah. Who knows?
I don't know.
But I think that wraps it up for today.
Yeah, I think so.
I can't wait for the next one.
I'm trying to think. Only thing I want to point out is we've mentioned a couple times that there's moments where she's not in control. And I do want to point out, I like the mirror. I feel like she's going on the same journey as these other characters. In the first few episodes, these people thought, like, the world that they're in, like her power was heavy on them. And it was like, yeah, this is us. Like, this is a whatever sitcom, whatever this, whatever that. Mm-hmm. And people, specifically Vision, started to figure it out. And every time Vision started to come close, ding dong, someone comes in. Wanda would do something and make something happen. So then Vision wouldn't be able to question it. Like the very first episode when Mr. Hart was asking, "Where did you come from? Who are you? Who are you? Where did you come from? Who are you?" Mm-hmm. And then she made him choke because she didn't want Vision to think about that because he was, and he was like, "Where did I come from?" Yep. And we've seen that throughout the series. And now in this episode, as we see, like, okay, there's things that she can't control. When she starts to talk to Vision, I don't know how I got here. That's when, once again, the doorbell rings. And it's Pietro. And it's like, wait, this is what you were doing to Vision. So that's what tells me, like, that's why I don't think she's in control, because we've seen that shtick. We've seen somebody use that. Her.
Yep.
You question your reality, and then you get distracted. Mm-hmm. She questioned her reality. She straight up told him, and she seemed emotional and honest when the door went by. I didn't do that. But then, oh, well, it's my brother. I don't care. Like, it's my brother, like, who I miss. So, there's some sort of puppet master pulling these strings here. And yeah, man, you know, we got Mephisto is the leading suspect. We got Apocalypse, because X-Men stuff, right. You know. Got a lot of different people. And I'm so excited for more and more to be revealed. Yeah. But that was the one last thing that I had to point out on this. But yeah, what do you guys think? Who do you think?
Yeah, what are your theories?
Is the puppet master?
And do you think there's another thing? The next cameo, because I do think there's going to be another one.
Yes. I think there's going to be a few more.
A few more. Yeah. So in the comments, let us know, or in the chat, who do you think is going to show up that we haven't mentioned?
And I don't think the mics picked that up, but there's some craziness happening over there. That was great.
Some sort of human bird upstairs. But thank you guys so much. Like and subscribe. Share the video with all of your friends. And come back next week for episode 6.
Yes, and if you would like to speculate more, also feel free to join our Discord. We got a growing community there. Yes. And you can pose questions to us for our other show. Starting this coming Friday, we are doing the Pop Culture Cave. So a week from today. Basically, the format's going to be I stream Ring Fit in the morning. Then we do Pop Culture Cave together, where we just talk about a lot of news and stuff, movie, games, TV, pop culture. And then from there, we'll end it and say, we are going to watch WandaVision and record our MCU reviews. And then this comes out Friday night. So, with that being said, if you have questions related to WandaVision or related to anything Marvel, anything DC, Snyder Cut stuff's happening soon, join the Discord. Stream Elements should be spamming it in the chat. And if you are not watching this live or during the live broadcast, it's at the very top of our description. It's the very first thing. Mm-hmm. So, like, subscribe in Discord. That's all I gotta say about that.
That's all I gotta say. Hopefully, have a great weekend, everyone, and we'll see you. Oh, one more thing that I want everyone to know. I don't think we're gonna have an upload since then, but it's gonna be your birthday.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, happy birthday.
Thank you. Yeah, my birthday is Monday.
Yep.
So tune in to my Ring Fit stream Monday morning and wish me a happy birthday. Let's get. I've been getting Smash streams up to 20 people. I've been getting them a little higher than 20 at some points. Either way, let's get Ring Fit up to 20. I can get Ring Fit up to like 15 or 16. I've not broken that yet. If you guys boost my Ring Fit stream up to 20, that'll be the best birthday present ever. But no, yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Tyler.
Of course. I just thought about it. I'm like, oh, we're not gonna have an upload. Well, yeah, you will in the morning, but yeah.
Weird.
So.
All right, well, that's it for today, guys. Stay awesome.
Stay awesome. Bye-bye.